Okay, Beseda. So we're learning through Mishnas Sofrim. We're up to the Chof Pshuta. Chof Pshuta means the final Chof. So on your little printout, you haven't actually got the final letters. But if you look in your Mishnas Sofrim, you've got pictures of the final Chof there. It's basically the picture of final Chof, right? It goes all the way down. Says the Mishnas Sofrim, Ois Chaf Pshuta. It's called a Kaf Pshuta, i.e. it's stretched out as opposed to a Kaf Kfufa, which means the regular Chof. Ragla Orach v'gaga kotza. So regular Chof, the gag is narrow, and the regel, the foot of the final Chof is long. Shelotid mel reish. You got to be careful that it doesn't begin to look like a reish. V'afa pikein. You got to be careful in the final chof that you don't make the top, the gag, too narrow. Because otherwise it would look like a vov. A nun pshuta, or it would look like a nun pshuta, like a long nun, an end nun, latinik v'tipasa, for a kid who reads it, v'tipasa, and that could change the tzur and it become possible. You got to be very careful at the end of a line not to make the final chof long, to stretch it out, to make it all fit into the end of the line, because it will look like a big reish. Yeah, so for example, he's got a picture here. Yeah, it says v'lechtecha v'derech. So v'derech, if a guy stretched it just to make it all flush at the end of the line, then if he puts the chof there too long, it looks like a bit like a reish. So you got to be careful not to stretch it too long. Even though the cholos is ein meshchon, one shouldn't stretch the letters. Zeh mitzvah, but b'diavad lo pasul, and but lechatchila you shouldn't stretch it, but b'diavad it doesn't pasul it. But with the final chof, im herich gagat shenira kareish, if you stretch the roof that it looks like a reish, pasul, that changes the tzura of the ice and it becomes pasul. V'im sofik, and if you're not sure, marin l'tinuk d'lechakim l'tibish, show it to a kid of average intelligence, and he can decide whether it looks like a final chof or something else. Sofer really has got to be very careful. That the foot should be twice the gag, right? So imagine the final chof. Yeah, the roof should be one measure, and the leg down should be two. It should be twice the width of it. That if you take the leg and you bend it round to make a chof, then it becomes a final regular chof. That's your measure. If the leg is twice as long as the top, you just have to bend it round and it becomes a regular chof. There is no difference between a final chof and a regular chof. It's just that one is stretched out and one is bent over. And some even b'diavad pass this, that has in Yeridea, Reshan Gimel, Shekara, Elosim HaSofrim, Burim. The Taz calls those Sofrim who mess up in this respect Burim, which means uneducated people, Amrotzim, yeah. Sefer Torah passes because it passes the Sefer Torah. And so too, all the final letters, their length should be twice the roof. If you do find in the Sefer Torah the final chof, the roof extends at shenira kareish, that the letter now looks like a reish, not like a final chof. If you can stretch the leg down that it looks less like a reish and more like a chof, then good. You have to erase it and start over. The dai begriris haregel gag. Some makel and say all you need to do is scrape away the regel of the gag, aveligra ktsas min agag, but to scratch away some of the gag, that it looks like a chof, lo mahani, that doesn't help. To have a chak teiches, back to the old problem of chak teiches. You've got a different letter, and you're not writing the letter, you're sort of making it just appear by erasing. Important, when you have the final chof, the top bit shouldn't be squared off. So, for example, it should be rounded. The final chof should be rounded at the top, and it shouldn't be square like that. Zovis lamala kamei dalet, because if you where is it? Zovis lamala eltia agula kamei reish, should be like a reish rounded. Shem koifenos atase kof kfufa, because if you can bring it round, it'll become a kaf kfufa. V'mosel zovis lamala kamei dalet, and if you make it square at the top like a dalet, psula, that actually passes it. For dinner shetzarich ligra kula for the cosmic chodesh, and you've got to scrape it away and write it afresh. Or you add ink la seisa agula to make it round. Ve'etza zu doisofas dioi, and that etza of adding ink mahania filu betfilim mezuzahs will work even in tefillim mezuzahs. The loy mikri shloi kasijan, that is not considered shloi kasijan. To kodim atikan nami teres kaf shutoleh, because the ma'aser before you fixed it, it had the appearance of a final chof, or kamavu el b'siman lamed beis sif chofei, like we learned previously. Ach im nimtza kein b'sefer Torah beis hakriyad, if you found this problem at the time of laning, you don't have to bring out a new one, because there are those who are machshir this. I'm prima godim b'simin kuf mem gimel v'derech Chaim b'chus Kriyas Torah. Teheicha de'ika machlikas and apoiskim ein lahitzi acheres. When there is a machlikas and there is one mekel shita, you don't have to bring out another sefer Torah. Kol osak fulin for aleph base. All of the letters which are doubled in the aleph base, the ender letters, the final letters, koisev es harishonim b'tchila hatevu v'emtzah. You write it normally when these letters appear at the beginning or in the middle of the letter. And you do the end letter, the the final letters, the last word of the last letter of the word. The imshina parcel, and if you change it, then it's parcel. So you do a final mem at the beginning or in the middle of a word, that will not work, except or vice versa. Good. Okay, ad kan, the final chof. Now let's move on to the lamed. Now, without thinking about this, probably we've never thought about it, but which two letters make up a lamed? Nearly, a vav and a chof. Yeah, if you look at a lamed, if you think about it, you've got a chof and you've got a vav on top of it. Yeah, it's all that building blocks. So it says the Mishnas Sofrim, Eis lamed. The neck, i.e. the top part of the lamed, should be long like a vav. The top of the lamed, i.e. the vav part of it, should be rounded. L'tzad yamin, on the right hand side at the top. L'tzad small, zovis l'reisha kamosha reish havav. In other words, this, you've got your lamed. The vav part at the top, it should be rounded over here, and on the left-hand side of the top, it should be square. That's really what he's saying. The foot of it should be agula, rounded off me'achareha letzad yamin, u'kefufa heitev lefoneha, and it should be bent a little bit towards the front. Katsuras kof kefufa, right, like a kof kefufa. So so that's really what the so the lamed has got the vav at the top, the chaf there, and it should be rounded on the top and on the bottom. Yeah, okay, good. Im tzarich lahamshich hakav hatachten shel hakav sheyeshoven im hakav ha'elyon yeshtez b'zeh ben haposkim. Now this is interesting. So the lamed, if you think about it, you've got a chof at the bottom. How far across does it have to go? So in the one that I've printed off for you, the bottom of the lamed actually stops short below it. But other poskim say it should actually come longer. It should be in line with the top. Yeah. So, and that's a machlokas. Yesh de'as ben poskim d'yeshom d'tzorich. That's the radvaz. V'yeshom d'adrab. No, lo yam shechenarak mat. It should be like we've got in the sheet, a little bit shorter. That's the Kinas Yaakov b'sefer shuv. Yeah. Ayin shom shekosov shegam shama came b'shem agon. Okay. V'noaga sofrim kadezu, and many poskim, many sofrim, they follow this opinion, i.e. The bottom of the lamed should come out and be elongated, so it's flush with the top bits. Small on the left hand side, mokum chibur kaf imvov, at the point of connection between the chof and the vov, which makes up the lamed together. Imvov bezov izu lo beigel. This should be square. It should be square and not rounded. So in other words, at this point over here, can you see over there? Again, the lamed you've made up of a chof and a vov. At that point, to the point of chibur, that side should be square and not rounded. That's what it's saying. V'yehei chibur havav shel hakov b'dakus, and the chibur, the point of connection between the vav and the chof, should be very thin. Ki tmnosa k'sunas vav, because the vav, which is at the top of the lamed, is like a regular vav. What's a regular vav? She'ovyoi misma'et v'hoilech. A regular vav. Look at the regular vav. Yeah, the regular vav over here, it goes off thicker at the top and then it narrows. Well, so too the vav over there, it should narrow, so the point of contact is going to be very thin and not broad. Ki timnos vav she'avyo mitzma'at v'helech b'soifei v'chanal b'vav v'yichtav harosh v'atzavar kofuf ma'at al poneha, and the neck of it should be a little bit bent, ma'at al poneha. So he's got a picture of that. Number 7, in this bit, it should be bent a little bit. So can you see the top of the lamed? It shouldn't be, actually here it's not so good. Here it's straight up. Can you see the top of the vav is straight vertical? What he's saying over here, the Mishnas Sofrim, is that it should be bent a little bit. Can you see, it should be just tilted a little bit. Yeah, it should be, like that. That's what it's saying. On the top of the lamed, I don't know if you noticed this before, on the vav part, there's 2 tagin. Mimin gadol mismol katan. Has he got it over here? Yeah, it's just about, you can just about make it out. Can you see? There's 2 tagin. He's actually only got one of his. He's got one, but then the one on the left should be a very small one. Yeah, so that's what it's saying. So you should have 2 tagin on the top of the lamed, one larger and one smaller. The tagin at the top is all lechatchila, levad im osa tzava halamed ke'en yud. Now, if you make the top of the lamed ke'en yud, right? Can you imagine you squash it down? So, for example, like this. The lamed, can you see the top is not like a vav, but more like a yud. It doesn't go up very far. They would say that it's not a lamed, it's no good. I'm a true Yisrael, but Tim Sasham Deis Bezer, Va'ayin B'Sefer Avodas Hayom, now with the top page 126, B'Sefer David Emes. Alkein Tzorech HaSofer L'Zoy Bezer Ma'od, you've got to be very careful to make sure that the vav on top of the lamed is a vav and not a yud. This is the Lashon of Baruch Shama, to exclude all the Sofrim Burim, the ignorant Sofrim, Shemakatzrim HaTzavar, they make the Tzavar short, Shelalamad, V'oisim HaLamad Kamin Yud, and they make it like a Yud, Machmas She'enam Oisim Revach Bein Shita L'Shita, Kamali Shita, because they don't leave enough space. They want to, because if you've got wording above it, then you've got a problem, because it's going to go into the word above. So for example, this, V'mei Benechem, Los Seis Lohem. So you've got a lamed there, but they haven't left enough space over there above, so you can't go up. The lamed can't go up properly, so you've got a little yud. Well, that's not a proper lamed. You should have left enough space. So the Sofrim have got to be aware to leave enough space for the lamed above. She'ein moisim revach ben shita l'shita k'moli shita. Ki ha-rekech, Kosov, the rekech writes, behedya sheyesh lichtav al halamed k'moi vav v'lo k'moi yud. V'chein motzasi b'hagah b'peret get poshet v'chein kazan rabbeinu simcha b'shem ha-chosid ayin sham. Oidu eisi Sofrim burim. I also see ignorant Sofrim shekashatoyim when they make mistakes. V'koisvin kuf b'makom lamed, and they write a kuf instead of the lamed. Oisin savar tchila roisha shia lamed. They scratch away the foot. I'll show you what this is in a second. And the other end as well. Like writing a hey when you should write a dalet. So for example, you've got this. Some Sofrim, to get the lamed, you know what they would do? They would write a kuf, they would then add on the vav, and then they scratch away the foot. So that creates a lamed. Or the other way around, they write a lamed, they put the foot of the thing, and they scratch away the top, and they get a kuf. That doesn't work. If that's a postel gomer, you shouldn't do that. Okay, finishing off lamed. Lamed shenimtza al gabe rak ke'ein kav poshet kazeh v'lo vav. If you've got the vav goes up like this, you've got that, it goes straight up, and you don't do a vav, you just do a straight line up, right? says lamed shenimtza al gabe rak in kav poshet, just a straight line up kazeh v'lo vov, and it doesn't have the top of it. Yesh lahachshir b'shas atchag, but the evet one can be machshir. Dahainu im nimtza came b'Shabbos ein tzorach lo yitzach eretz. You see that on Shabbos you have to bring out another sefer Torah. V'chol yisakin, and during the week you can fix it. But tefillin ein lo acherim yanichem b'lo bracha, and if you find this in tefillin you can do without a bracha. Okay, that's the end of lamed. Now let's do mem. We can do quickly the mems, the mem psucha and the mem pshuta. Mem psucha and mem susah. Ois mem psucha tmnosa ktsas kamoi kof vov. Again, what is the mem made up of? Amazing. You've got two letters. You've got the chof and you've got a vov. Right? That is the letter mem. So ois mem psucha tmnosa ktsas kamoi kof vov. Al kain tiyeh lemal tzad yamin agula. The top of it should be a little bit bent over. And at the bottom it should be square and not rounded. The top should be flush and not rounded. Just on the right hand side it should be rounded. And the top of it should be flush with the bottom of it. Right? So for example in the mem you've got over there, it ends over there, and it ends over there. So it should be flush, it shouldn't be too short. The Orach keneged Moshava hatachton. V'chol ze lechatchila. Hachartum shebetzad small. Now you've got the connection between the Vov and the Chof. The connection over there between the Chof and the Vov to make the Mem. Hachartum, that's called the Chartum Tia Kamoi Vov Omedes. That should be like a regular Vov. However, Muta Ktas Ba'alachsoin V'lo Harbe. So you can see the Vov is just is tilted away a little bit. That's on a slight angle. Rashi benem the hachartim shebetzad small yizoah lidbek osel legagoy. Make sure it touches the gag. V'yelechatchila kimat moshuch b'shavim agag. Rak sheyeh beineim letzad mala kamoi pagam cotton. Utmunas hachartim tziyeh kamoi vov omedes. Mutzah katas balachsam v'lo harbe. V'yagiat keneged Moshe v'atachten v'ad bichlal. Good. U'moid yizoah shelo yigaboy. You got to be very careful. Shelo yigaboy, that at the bottom it shouldn't touch it. U'mikol mokum le'eh beineim hefsek godel lechatchila. It shouldn't be a big gap, but there should be a bit of a gap at the bottom. Over there, a little bit of a gap between the bottom of the mem and the other side. Good. Otherwise, it would look like a kaf and a vov, and that would be possible. Two letters. Because you've written a chaf and a vov, and then you've written letters after it, and then you've got shalok kasidron. Ein shom b'mishnah berurah. V'hu adinim hidbik hachartzen lematav makom psichos elamem deposel u'mavu adinim le'er b'simen lamed beis sif yutchesin and tikanim lo kotzav adayin achro betfilim mezuzos. Let's just finish off mem, the final mem. So the end of mem, the final mem, is a summa, is closed off. Tia lechatchila agula lemal l'tzad yamin. That should be rounded at the top. So the final mem, like that, should be rounded and not square at the top. Then but on the bottom, on the right and the left, it should be square. Shouldn't look like a samach. And if you don't do that, and the kid reads it as a samach, not as a mem, psula, that it puzzles it. Amazingly, the Prima Godim says that your mem should be squared on all sides. So according to the Prima Godim, the mem would look like this. Can you see? It would be like that, like a box. It'd be a square on all sides. Mikol sad ki bekal yuchel lovely day tos besamach. Otherwise, it's going to look too samach-like, which puzzles it. Mem zet yes sumikol sad. The gaga ye over lechatchila mechutz lestima ma'at karesh avov. It should go over a little bit. V'lo yimshech hagag lesad smaller harbor, but don't make it too much over. Uvadiavad yigra hamoisa. And if you do, you can scratch away the extra. Ve'im bezem mishum chayk tochus shlo kasidron. Nimsa came b'shem hakodesh ein lesagni shei kach v'kosha v'gam b'shavas eno yacheres al mazeh. Which means at the end, there should be a little bit coming out of the final mem at the top, but don't make it too much. And if you do it too much, scrape it away. But if the last letter is the Shem Hashem Elokim, you can't scrape it away. So then you've got a problem. And on Shabbos, if that way you find something like that, or a mem which is a bit too long out, then you would not bring out another Sefer Torah. Seder.